Welcome to The Ordinary Show. Meher Stevie, I'm your host. And today I have a very interesting guest, Melissa, my friend. And we're going to talk about a very deep topic, seeking meaning. Melissa is a self-proclaimed seeker. She wears a lot of hats. She's a lawyer, a mother of a 5-year-old boy who makes her run around everywhere, a wife, a working mother, and she is trying to do the most impossible, find balance in her life to make sure her life is complete, fulfilled, and filled with joy. Welcome, Melissa.
Thank you so much. It's really a pleasure to be invited to speak to you.
So, Melissa, tell the audience about yourself a little bit.
Well, when you invited me on the podcast and asked me to choose a topic, that was, I think it was clear what I wanted to talk about, but also it is a topic that really doesn't mean anything until you put meaning to it. So I picked something that was kind of wide, a little nebulous of finding meaning, because I feel that is where I am in my life right now. Trying to figure out how to live a purposeful life that balances joy, but also balances purpose. And those two aren't always compatible with each other.
In addition to all the responsibilities you have, you're a mother, you have to work, you've got chores to do, you have to food to cook, you have to drive. So in addition to all those menial, boring, routine work, you still have to find the purpose and the joy and the fulfillment of your life.
Absolutely. And I think it's part of it, right? I think to think of it as separate things where, yes, we have to really give attention to the maintenance of our lives. But I don't think that I don't think that it's something that takes you away from your purpose, right? I think it's just a part of your journey. And I love the Buddhist sort of concept of the way you do anything is the way you do everything. So I'm always striving to remember that and be mindful in the menial things I do, so I can be mindful in the big things that I eventually want to get to.
I agree. And I've started my life with this phrase, how you live is how you die.
Ooh.
So it's becoming deeper and deeper as I'm growing older, in age, which is just still a number.
Which is still a number. You're growing more profound in experience, right?
So I would like to ask you how and what, how do you define seeking fulfillment? And what steps do you take to seek fulfillment, purpose, and joy in your life?
I don't have a definition. I think we can start there. I don't want to sound kind of pretentious of like seeking meaning, but I think for me it just means I think it's always trying to realign yourself with the overall goal that you want to achieve in your life. I always have said that I think my umbrella goal in life is to leave a stitch in the fabric of human progression. I wrote an article in high school where that was sort of the conclusion of the op-ed, and I try to live by that, right? Where I do want to leave an impact. I do want to leave a legacy, even if it is as small as the compassion that I pour into my child, that he then, puts forth into the world, or I have the opportunity to do bigger and, better things that impact more people's lives. But that's always been sort of the overall goal of what I kind of want to do here. I want to leave the world a little better than when I came into it, a little kinder, a little nicer, a little more understanding. So to kind of translate that in everyday life, making sure that I don't commit to things that don't grow me and don't grow the people around me.
Beautifully said. But what are the tools, principles, or habits, you are cultivating to reach to your goal?
So I'm still working on cultivating them.
This is a hard one, right?
It is, because I am hopelessly ADHD, and I think it's a thing people say now. I've been diagnosed in my 30s. I've had it my entire life, and when the pandemic hit, I realized, oh wow, I really need help with resources, and because I struggled kind of being at home and not going to the different environments. Like when you're going to the gym, I love it because that's what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to work out when you're at the gym. When you're at work, you're supposed to, so I can, work when you're, at different
home.
places. Exactly. So when everything is at home now, where my gym is at home and work is at home and everything, it became a struggle to
A lot of people
turn
struggle
my
during
attention.
COVID.
They did, but you know what? I think I flourished. Not in the sense of it was something that was out of the ordinary and devastating for so many people. But in that, there's a duality to everything, and it depends on where you are in life, where you get to take advantage of the opportunities, right? And I think I can acknowledge how it changes as a society, for the worse, but also for the better. And individually speaking, it gave me more time to
reflect.
to reflect, to slow down, to spend the time that I was, that I would have used driving to work or making small talk with coworkers, or those little times that you kind of lose, to be able to be still, be calm, and really analyze what I want out of life, and what ways to best kind of navigate through that.
And I saw you journaling.
Yes,
It's a very important part of my personality, and I do a lot of journaling and
I would
reflective
love to
thinking.
be better at that. Yes,
And I saw you. So tell us about that's probably one of the tools people can, utilize to unwind their busy, crazy minds.
Yeah, I tend to. I'm starting to look at things as inputs and outputs, right? And taking time for yourself, to me, means pouring things into you, like reading books on and about different experiences in life and different cultures and things that are sort of outside of yourself, but different ways of thinking and thought, and I think reading and consuming things, it's wonderful, but I think taking the time to then analyze that and free journal or even structured journal helps you, or helps me when I actually sit down and do it.
Become more
connect things, I think,
Yeah.
better, and articulate things in a structured way that your mind tends to, not organize where. But I think that like input and output is important. I think in a lot of different aspects of life.
I believe it. And to actually, you don't have your to-do list, whether it's your daily routines, whether it's your work, whether it's your reflective thinking, you're actually not putting them in action. So I'm a big fan of doing that. And then the second thing you thought about is we're in this really crazy, busy world. We have Netflix, we've got social media, we've got so much overload of information. But you said silence and slowing down, that's when you start attracting the real fulfillment and joy and the goals. What are your thoughts on that?
I think that's absolutely right. I think taking time to explore like the interior and how you actually feel about something, and think, well, do I feel this way about something, or do I have this belief because it's part of my identity that I've crafted or that society has crafted for me? Or do I believe it, and why and how? And kind of, I love to do those kind of mental gymnastics and to try to understand the way I move in the world and what I believe, and to understand people better. That is always, I think, my goal, to try to connect, because I'm lucky to say there's not a person I've met, there's not someone I've come across in my life that I haven't been able to understand and connect with. And that's for better or for worse. There are some people who have not wanted the best for me, or who have wronged me in some way, and still being able to
understand where they're coming
them,
from, and
understand them and their
to
motivations, and even worse, to see that if I were in their place, if a different time, a different circumstance, a different situation, I could be them. So what would make their actions make sense? And instead of taking things personally, kind of feeling that my ego's attacked, I really try to
See the bigger picture.
see the bigger picture.
And
right?
that way
Because-
you don't get into the blame game.
Yes.
He did that because till you keep blaming other people's, you don't grow.
Absolutely. And I always say, I have the inability to hate. And I've gone through some things and I realize I don't hate anybody. I don't have ill will towards anybody. And I think that's a great thing. Sometimes I'm just like, oh, I really this person deserves my ire. They deserve my resentment. And, once I sort of kind of think through feelings, right? I realize, I understand. Oh, I get why they did that. Or I get why they said that without now learning not to take it personally or take it as if it's some kind of indication of who I am or my personality or my thoughts, because they don't know my interior. Everything would be speculative.
Absolutely.
So if they're saying something or doing something, has to do with them.
Yep.
Has to do more with them, say more about them than they'll ever say about you.
And that's a very big learning, actually, because that's when your first step towards growth starts. Yes. And then you work on your own forgiveness. And then you can live a
and
life
that's the
actually
ultimate goal.
of liberation. And you're like a bird flying and yet enjoying the wind.
Yeah, I love the analogy you made about the bird, because it's sort of like lenses. It's a zoomed out lens instead of being in the moment and feeling attacked. And because that's kind of your ego. That's the construction you've made about who you are, whether your race, your gender, your belief system, your perceived political identity, and to think, well, I could be upset because I think they're looking at those things and then they're taking into account their experiences and the narratives, and then they're expressing disappointment or dislike, and think, well, if you're zoomed out, if you have a bird's eye perspective, then you don't have to be in that moment. You have to realize that, wait, that's not I can divorce myself from my ego and then take the situation from what it is. And I think that's why I love the bird's eye analogy.
And these are very deeper, rules to actually for self-fulfillment and joy and purpose. So, you and I can actually go on for another hour talking about more, details. But so tell me, what lessons you have learned and what advice would you give your younger self, as you are growing every day in this life? And what advice would you give to our audience about seeking meaning, fulfillment, joy, and creating balance? It's coming from a lawyer's eye.
I definitely think there's maybe two aspects to it, right? Kind of the interior and the exterior, right? The physical world and sort of maybe something more, right? And I'm still learning. I'm still becoming, as I think Michelle Obama would say. So I don't think I have advice yet. But the things that I've learned, and I think it has aided me growing up in a place. I grew up in South Florida, where I have every type of friend, every walk of life. I pride myself in kind of seeking people who have different lived experiences than I do, and kind of gaining from that. And I think I've learned from having, benefiting from that we are all so different, but in the things that matter,
we're all
exactly
the same at the same time as well.
Everyone holds a little part of the divine. Everybody holds a little part of the secret, has a spark of
the spirituality in their heart and soul.
Exactly. Or goodness or something to contribute. And I think once you
start
actively
tapping.
try to default to that.
Yes.
When you do it so often, it becomes a default, and then you look for that in people. I think it opens up your purpose and by understanding other people's motivations and actions, and it better defines what you want to do. I think it's great. let's see, I guess those are the lessons. Let's see, advice I would give, be open to understanding or
The
listening
actions of
someone's story. You can't.
Yes.
It's hard to hate somebody that you know their
No,
story. You know what
exactly.
happened. You know what led to the action. You might not, the first thing people see about other people, their action or the product, right? Without analyzing the whys. And I think the beauty is in the details. I love they say the devil's in the details.
Oh my God,
But the
yes.
beauty's in the detail. I mean, everything's in the details, right? Everything has a duality. Everything has a dark side and a light side, and you can focus on the darkness of
Or you
the
can
human
focus
nature.
on the lighter side.
You can, but you have the choice to focus on the lighter side. You have the choice, and I think that is the lesson.
And I think
you
when
have the
people are doing
choice.
wrong to you or doing something which you don't like, I've come to realize that 99% it's the projections of their own wounds. It has nothing to do with you.
They're talking under their
It
own
is,
insecurity.
yes, it is their own wounds. They're on the dark side. They're just projecting on you, and you happen to be there. That's where you need to understand.
And once you realize that, it makes it easier to see when you're reacting out of your own insecurity. Where, wait, do I really feel like that? Or did I say that to hurt them because XYZ happened to me in the past? Because I feel deficient in some way and I think they're calling me out on it. And the other person probably does. They're worried about themselves. They're worried about how they're coming off. They're worried about the things that they have to do and their priorities and this and that. And I think it's good to stop speculating on other people as
Yes,
well,
exactly.
right? And take them at face value as they are, because even if it's coming from a place that is different than what you think it's coming from, it's not it's for them to figure out, right? It's not for you to take on. I'm not going to take on the energy. Sometimes I adore my husband, and I think we have one of the healthiest relationships I've ever seen and been witness to, which is great. I don't say that to boast, but I say that to say, because it's really hard. And we are so very different. Of course, I'm in a heterosexual relationship. He is a man. So that is already hard, right?
Yes.
But he's from a different culture. He's from a different regional place in the United States than I am. And our understanding of concepts can be different.
Yes.
Our understanding of even the same words can be different. So a lot of the miscommunications that we have, and I realize most people, when they have miscommunication, it's that they're using the same words to define different things.
Yes.
With the same word that has different definitions to each of them. And they're not talking to each other. They're talking past each other.
I've been married 15 years. I feel the same thing as well. I think we're discussing the same topic, but our concepts so different. It's just how you communicate with each other leads to that as well. So beautifully said. And, coming back to the topic of seeking meaning, I think as you talked about divinity, I think if we keep our heart soft, kind, and with compassion, but we build a little bit boundaries around it, we don't let our heart harden. Those boundaries help us to protect our heart and keep it soft.
Absolutely.
That's where your divinity grows, and that's where you find the purpose.
I love that. I think setting boundaries is important because it helps you mindfully define what you will accept and what you won't. And I think that is something that's really important because, one, it helps you think about what will you accept, where your lines lie, but why, the why behind them. Well, I won't accept this or this treatment because I respect myself and I don't think I should be spoken to that way. Or I will, I think this is the big thing, right? It's easy to set boundaries. I've learned now to set boundaries with other people.
We're setting boundaries, but not walls.
Exactly, but not walls.
That's a very longer subject for a week, which we can actually...
Absolutely.
And it's a subject which I'm still learning to develop, and I guess...
And to change your boundaries
exactly.
as new information comes into
and
place.
And people will pass your boundaries, you just have to bring it up.
Absolutely.
But you don't want walls so that no one can come inside at the same time. So, maybe this subject for us are next time, because I would love to actually, see how you think.
Oh, really? I would love to gain from your experience too, because we're still working
because
on
a lot of people, we all are learning and understanding, and probably also suffering how to build boundaries.
Yes.
Yeah.
For me, I think I lead with kindness. I will say now that I'm not a nice person. I'm a kind person. And I say that because, and I mean, the definition I mean when I say nice is, I'm using nice in the form of, I'm not performative. I don't want to be someone who's going to smile in your face and then, and talk about you behind your back. Right? I would rather be kind behind your back and understand that maybe I don't need to be in your life right now.
Yeah.
It's not a nice thing to say, to distance yourself from someone or something that you realize is not serving you at the time, right? But being kind means understanding what mutually beneficial situations are.
Yeah.
Right? That I don't want to have a friendship that's imbalanced where I'm getting so much from this person, but I'm not giving.
Yeah.
But also vice versa. I do not want to have a relationship where I am giving more effort and time and emotion, whatever, than the other person, because it's not fair. And it's not fair for that person's growth either. So I always try to kind of balance. That's always my thing.
And sometimes it's going to be up. Sometimes you'll get 30, other will get 70. Sometimes you get 50, the other will get 50.
And that's fine. Yes.
And that's fine.
And that's fine. I love using
percentages over there. But I always lived by the phrase, when you have to choose between fairness and being kind, always choose to be kind.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah. But I guess we'll have to end up on this note. You and I can talk, for another 1 hour. And, but thank you so much for being on this podcast. And thank you so much for giving me your time and discussing such a profound topic. I'm so glad. But that's the next topic which we definitely need to discuss.
Well, we do, because I definitely would love to discuss with you some of the things that I've defined as of right now that I want out of life, and kind of some of the rules that I've sort of tried to live by. So
maybe we need to sit down with our journals and share what we've both written down.
That's true. I mean, I do have mine here.
I don't have mine here yet.
I know. Yes. But
anything you want to say before we actually conclude this podcast? Some younger person, some older person would be listening and will say, okay, if these girls can do it, I can definitely do it.
Absolutely. I think, okay, well, I do want to end on a couple of notes. The first one is I've sort of tried to define as of right now, the things I want out of life by the things that I need out of life, right? They're not the same thing. There's about three things. What I want out of life is to love deeply.
Beautiful.
But what I need to get there is probably to have the pleasure to grieve. Because to love something, and it doesn't have to be necessarily a person, but to love an idea, or to love a version of yourself, or that you want, or to love somebody, to connect with somebody, means the other side of the coin means that you will lose at some point where they may no longer be in your life, or something happens where they pass. And to have the privilege to grieve is usually seen as a hard thing.
And the modern society has stopped learning how to grieve. That's the biggest thing.
But you don't grieve something that you didn't connect with.
Yes. But, thank you so much. And on this note, I would, say thank you for coming on my podcast, The Ordinary Show. And till next time, I'm excited to bring, to introduce you to Melissa and her amazing, insightful information about seeking fulfillment.
Or what I've learned till now. It'll change tomorrow. So thank you so much for inviting me.
Thank you so much. Thank you to be on my podcast.
Oh, it's always a pleasure to speak to you.